Okay, so now we come to the part of our meeting, which is citizens' time. And during citizens' times, anyone can come up to speak on any issue that is not does not have a public hearing. So we ask that each one come up, that you state your name and your magisterial district, and then when you're finished talking, to please sign in with Mrs. Culbertson. I would also like to, it looks like we've got a lot of people here, so what I'd like to just remind everyone is that in the event that there are more than four speakers who wish to speak during citizens' time, the chairman shall allocate the 20 minutes that's allowed for citizens' time to be in an equitable manner. So I ask that each person remember we have a total of 20 minutes for this. So if you would mind just stating your name, whatever the issue is, and then so we can have time for everybody to speak. And we'll go ahead and start now. Okay, thank you. Anybody, any speakers for citizens' time? Hey, Mary.
Hi, Mary Lee, Chairwoman Mary Lee. Thank you for having us tonight.
Sure.
I'm Mary Wilkerson in the Marshall Magisterial District, President of the Marshall Business and Residents Association, the original grant applicant for this project. The MBRA has been studying this in detail for almost 2 years. We've also recently walked Main Street with VDOT. It is our opinion, of course, that we need to do everything possible to stop this, that Marshall is actually going to be better off business-wise, attractiveness, safety, be better for business and financially, and for our residents if we can just do an alternative of letting VDOT go ahead and pave and maintain, and we take it step by step. And we avoid the destruction. And we also would like to, we're not professionals, we're just a grassroots group. And so we don't know what the correct terminology is, but whatever the correct terminology is to cancel the project or we understand there haven't been any public hearings on this for years, and people are just really finding out the details of the plan that we didn't receive until August of 2018. So given the fact that there have been so many changes in such a long time since a public hearing, we really ask that whatever it takes to, whatever the correct terminology is, that the County Board of Supervisors would allow that process to take place, that we proceed with either defunding it or having a public hearing about it, whatever the process is necessary. Thank you.
Mary, you want to sign in, please? Mary? You sign in.
I'm sorry. I also have 126 form letters along with petitions. We have 126 form letters against the project from many Main Street businesses and residents in the Lighting Tax District. So all of these I'll leave with Renee.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm Teresa Patton-Munoz. I'd like to echo what she said. I live at 8293 East Main Street, so I'm in the Marshall District. I'm also in the Lighting District, so I'll be impacted by the rate fees that are going up. And to have this go on for just a one-block section, I really think it's a bad plan. And if I had a coupon for something I didn't need to buy, I don't think I'd buy it. Also, my car was totaled 2 weeks ago. I was parked on the street in front of my house, and a truck took out the front end of it. So having the street get 2 feet narrower, I think, has a lot of safety repercussions. And I wait for 3 different buses, a Head Start bus, an elementary bus, and a high school bus. And I think thinking about the many children and the buses that we have going back and forth, it needs to be considered. My first daughter was in a wheelchair. I spent a lot of time thinking about ADA and how to get around in the wheelchair. And from what I'm understanding, we wouldn't really see any benefits from the plan to what we already have in place or could easily do. So I'd like to support what she said and ask that we consider not throwing good money after bad.
Thank you.
All right, well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm on TV, so I don't need a sticker to say what side I'm really going to be on. I have much respect for you, Mary Lee, Mr. Trumbo, as well as for Mary.
Give us your name, please.
Folks, my name is Joe DeLisi. My family and I own Joe's Pizza in Marshall at 8349 West Main Street, right there in the dead center heart of the project for the sidewalk. And, I I do what I feel the people that support me are in favor of. I do have some that are in favor of the sidewalk, but I feel that I have a lot more people who are not in favor of the sidewalks. Hey, how rude, guys. I'm up here. No, I'm just kidding. So I do what the people that support me are in favor of, because my business is based on foot traffic. If people can actually get into my business and get out of my business, I think it's going to put a big damper on the foot traffic of people who can actually get into my establishment to access the product of pizza, which is being sold there. And so I would say I could go on, but I don't have very much time. I'm not in favor of the project for the sidewalks. Once again, all the years that you all have committed to this and given to, the time, countless hours. And so please, if there is anyone that doesn't agree with me, I hope that you will still continue to buy my product and eat my pizza, because that's how I make a living. But don't let my opinion affect you, because I'm not in favor of the sidewalks. I'm a great guy. I've got a good family. And once again, God bless Marshall and God bless you all. And yeah. Thank you for your time.
Jerry, you're signing. Thank you.
Good evening, Chairwoman McDaniel and members of the Board of Supervisors. My name is Mary Elizabeth Wilkerson. I'm speaking as Secretary to the Marshall Business and Residents Association, for which I've served as Secretary for 6 years now. I live in the Marshall Magisterial District, and I work on Main Street in the Lighting Tax District. I'd like to respectfully ask that you all cancel the project, however that looks procedurally, technically, that you please cancel the project. It's a very respectable and wise thing to do, because it is in the best interest of Marshall. There has been opposition to this project all along. It's not that people are late to the game or anything like that, including in 2013 when that Board of Supervisors voted to increase the taxes. There was opposition that spoke out then, as well as a petition of 65 signatures that was turned in. And something that I noticed when going through the records is that on January 10th of 2013, the large hearing for that at Warrenton Middle School, 6 of the people who spoke in support of the tax increase for those in Marshall were outside of the Marshall Service District. And again, the next month in February, 2 of the people who spoke in support were also outside of the district and wouldn't bear the tax. So I ask that you please cancel them. These plans that we're talking about today haven't been around for 10 years. They were released to the public, to the community, and to the MBRA in August, at the end of August of 2018. So there is not widespread support for it, and it would be much appreciated if you would consider canceling. Thank you.
Hey everyone, how are you doing? My name is Lance Allen. I reside at 9531 Primrose Lane. Today I'll be speaking on behalf of Paul Lawrence, who is basically a lifelong citizen of Fauquier County, owns a business on Main Street at 8354 West Main Street. So I'll be reading his letter, which I think has been entered into the record. But I have to say, Paul asked me to read the letter because he couldn't be here tonight. I've read the letter, talked with Paul, spent many time talking with some of the supervisors about the project. I'm very well aware of the project, and I have to say 100% everything that I'm about to read I fully concur with. So I hope you'll take the time to listen to what Paul has to say, because I think it is the echo of many voices. So I'll just start. Try to make it brief. It's a long letter, so I'll be as fast as I can, I promise. My name is Paul Lawrence. I'm a lifelong member of the Marshall community, own property and business located on Main Street, Marshall. My family has continuously done so since the 1930s. I'm in full support of the Main Street project. I'm writing to convey some factual information and to dispel any misinformation that may have been deliberately broadcast by misrepresentatives of the now diminished Marshall Business and Residents Association, or MBRA, of which I was an original and long-standing member. Most of the original members, to include me, resigned last fall in protest over the usurpation of authority by the president of that organization. For those of us who have labored on improving Marshall for many years, we find it very difficult to understand why the last-minute opposition to this project that has been so thoroughly vetted, in which we implored the community to be involved in every process along the way in its design and approvals throughout the entire process. So pardon if I come across a bit harsh. That's Paul, not me, just so we're all very clear. Pardon if I come across a bit harsh, but I have spent countless hours for over 15 years volunteering by serving as chairman and or member of the development committees appointed by all 3 of our last Marshall District supervisors. In doing so, I and many others have represented the business and residential community to ensure we have a great design while mitigating the downside of the construction. So don't get me wrong, I own a business on Main Street, and yes, I have a business license. I own a significant business structure on Main Street. I will benefit from the improvements, just like I will be adversely affected like everyone else who operates on Main Street. So the last-minute opposition from one individual who has contributed very little to our community and who has managed to stir up passion from a few others who have not been given accurate information has me a bit irked. So why the opposition? I'm going to skip over a few parts here because Paul's very passionate, and I want to get to some of the factual information parts of it. So we have, for over 50 years, all around this country, inadvertently spurred the destruction of our business core. In every town and city across the country, there is a battle for good jobs, not just a job, but the one that provides a living wage. That's why this project exists today. We've allowed our main streets to devolve while focusing investments and business emphasis on big box stores and strip malls. This is usually done on lands just outside of our towns in an attempt to absorb additional tax revenue to offset the service demands created by the license in new homes, or the increase in new homes, excuse me. It has not just happened here, it has happened almost everywhere, and you have all witnessed it. When community spending is drawn to the outside of town and off its main street, the result is the main street suffers, the business core suffers, the community suffers. So let me be clear, I'm not opposed to the Food Line Shopping Center, the TSC, or any of the other businesses who take advantage of the locations at the entrance of Marshall. I fully support them and shop at them. But I also support and ask you to continue to support the Main Street project, which is to create a main street that is conducive to new business paradigm, small and craft businesses. By creating a more attractive main street with street trees, brick accents, lighting, and one that is safer and one that has been enhanced with the latest technology, we will attract new kinds of businesses which will thrive in a small community. So let us examine just for a minute. There are 3 phases for the planned redevelopment of Marshall Main Street to include phase 1, which is that core that you heard about earlier. This will happen from the BB&T to the Cordial Coffee Shop, including both intersections. Phases 2 and 3 will encompass the eastern and western gateways adjoining Main, and this should happen if we as a community can demonstrate that we can get this core section completed. So this dispels any bit of misinformation that the project is only for a small select group or a small select block. We have every intention of enhancing the entire version of Main Street. Main Street Marshall was widened and flattened in the 50s to make Route 55, we know as Main Street, a primary highway with speed on Main 35 and even higher at the gateways. The expansion removed any front porches, yards, gates, and fences, thus severely damaging the character of our small town. With this street enhancements of this project, we are expanding the width of our sidewalks from 4 feet to 5 feet, adding street trees, paved crosswalks, and other visual enhancements which will induce traffic calming and should result in a voluntary slowing of traffic. These enhancements will add safety, walkability, seatability in many places, which will help our frontage businesses as well as improve safety and accessibility of children, elderly, and the disabled. To do this, we will narrow Main Street by 11 inches. Let me highlight, we will reduce Main Street by 11 inches, not 2 feet. This is still within the VDOT requirements and exceeds that of other small towns and villages outside of ours. Misinformation has been broadcast, and I want to make sure that we clear up the nonsense. Additional misinformation has also been broadcast in an attempt to scare business owners that the roadway will be closed off to traffic and there will be no parking there will be no parking available to businesses. Again, not the truth. The conduit ductwork will be in the north side of the parking lane and will minimally impede traffic. Many businesses, to include mine, have made commitments to make their parking areas available. Sorry.
I'm trying to ask, can you kind of close up?
Yeah, I'll close up. Absolutely. I know it's got a lot longer. What I'll say is this. I read through the letter. There was a lot of factual misinformation in there. Information that I heard tonight, I went back and researched myself, and I found it to be false. The letter is on the record, and I think that if you go back and look at this project, that you're going to see it's good for our community, it's good for our businesses, and it protects Main Street Marshall, and that's what's important to me as a citizen of Fauquier and as a citizen of Marshall. I'll leave the rest on the record. How about that? Thank you, ma'am.
Be sure you
Yeah,
sign in.
Good evening. I'm Connie Jones. I'm in the Marshall Magisterial District, and I own and operate a business on Main Street, West Main Street in the Special Tax Lighting District. He took up quite a bit of time. I hope that we could extend the time for citizens' time. There's a lot of people here that would like to speak. I know that having a business, it's a hair salon. I talk to a lot of people. Many people are opposed to this. The number one reason is the narrowing of the streets. They consider it a danger. I know it's called traffic calming, but it's going to be hazardous for our fire and rescue equipment getting through, school buses, large farm equipment, delivery trucks, and so on. I do want to ask everyone to stand up that's in opposition of this, just so you can see in case they don't have time to speak tonight. And this is just a very few of the people that I've spoken with. I mean, there are many, many people opposed to this, and for different reasons. The tax increase, the determinant of business. You know, I have friends that all have businesses here in Marshall I've grown up with, and their businesses will suffer if this project goes forth. And we all know that it's going to suffer. It's going to cause them to suffer. Some of them may even have to go out of business, as happened in Middleburg. So we have a lot of things to compare this to. Actually, the bump outs with streets in Upperville and Middleburg, it's not working. Traffic calming, I don't know. I've heard people say, no, it's still the same. So I really hope and ask that you all would really consider canceling this. And there are options. We have confirmed with VDOT that there will be a 2-foot loss of roadway. I don't know where the 1 foot comes from, but VDOT has confirmed 2 feet. So I ask you to consider canceling the project. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Margarita Grady. I live in the Center District, and I'm also a school social worker for Fauquier County. So I work in Marshall, but I'm not here to talk about Marshall at all. I've lived in Fauquier County for 20 years, and I have been providing mental health services in Fauquier County for about 15 years. And over the last few years, I've seen the public mental health services available in the county become less and less available due to state and county budget cuts. So currently I'm a school social worker, and I'm here tonight to ask you to fully fund the school budget as presented to you by the school board. I may not be available for the public hearing next week. This budget includes raises for professionals that did not receive raises last year, including the school psychologists, the school social workers, the speech language pathologists, basically the professionals that all have their own independent licenses that could go out into private practice or work in a hospital, but choose not to because they believe they can do the most good by serving the students in the schools. They haven't had raises in many, many years, and these raises are much deserved. And in addition, this budget includes funding for 2 new school social workers. These mental health positions in the public schools are a very efficient use of resources. With 2 new school social workers, you're going to get help with the special education process, mental health counseling, behavior support for students in the schools, and perhaps most near and dear to my heart is the suicide and risk of targeted violence assessments that we do on behalf of the school division and also in the community. Our work genuinely saves lives. We're also the liaison between the schools and the families for families that need additional mental health services, that need food, that need housing, that are homeless. We're the boots on the ground that are really helping our most fragile students. And I really hope that you will consider fully funding the school board budget. And if not, if you would please consider funding for those 2 new school social worker positions. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll be sure to sign in. Thank you. Next.
Hi, my name is Mary Cross. I live in 8614 Colston Court in Marshall, the Marshall District, and I'd be in the tax lighting bracket, and I'd like to cancel the project, if you consider that, please, for 2 reasons: for the increase in taxes and for the narrowing of the Main Street. Thank you.
Be sure you sign in. Okay.
Good evening. My name is Patty Cloud, and I live in Marshall District. I moved to Marshall about almost 50 years ago, and I've been a supporter of MBRA and other local community organizations the whole time I've lived here. And I have felt in the minority a number of times in different issues in my past. And I really feel in the minority tonight. I'm in favor of this process for Main Street in Marshall. I think it's going to be a really good effort to improve Main Street. And for a long time, I've had a vision of no power lines along Main Street. And I think this would be the prime time to get something like that started. And it would be such an improvement for Main Street. If we need to do a huge project in order to get the power lines down, that would be a start. But getting the power lines off Main Street would be such an improvement, and I've been in favor of that for a long time. I think I bought my building on Main Street in 1978. And in 1978, several people, including Mr. Payne that we bought the building from, mentioned that there had been some talk and some brouhaha about having construction on a Main Street and mainly taking the power lines down. That was in 78, almost 50 years ago. So it's time to do something. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Chris Cloud. I also live in the Marshall District. I'm here speaking on behalf of two other people, and I'll make it brief because I know there's a line of people behind me. Speaking on behalf of Ann Michelle Green, who couldn't be here this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, my family and I own 8390 West Main Street in Marshall, and I'm a resident of the Marshall side of Scott District. There is full support from many businesses and property owners for the Marshall Main Street Improvement Project, including my family. This includes the immediate property owners within the improved project area. There are a few points I'd wish to emphasize. One, all utility easements and construction easements for the Marshall Main Street improvements have been signed by the property owners. Two, the narrowing of the roadway is within VDOT standards and is 1 foot wider than minimum width for the road classification. Three, the construction area is 0.22 miles from Rectortown Road to the other side of Frost Street. This equates to 1,188 feet. For perspective, one block in Old Town Warrenton is 218 feet. Number four, various property owners have agreed to allow parking during the construction phase of the project. I have been a real estate broker on Marshall's Main Street since 2011. During such time, property owners, purchasers, and investors have inquired the status of the Main Street Improvement Project. There is support to complete this project for the economic viability of Marshall Main Street, despite the fearful and negative rhetoric. I encourage people to ask questions from any one of us who have worked tirelessly to improve the safety, beautification, and economic viability of Marshall. Thanks for your time. Sincerely, Ann Michelle Green. The second letter, if I may, is from the Regenerative Medicine and Spa, the Mr. and Mrs. Poss, doctor. To the Fauquier County Board of Supervisors, we are Michael and Jean Poss, the property and business owners of Virginia Regenerative, say that 3 times fast, Medicine and Spa, located at 8451 West Main Street in Marshall, Virginia. Although we are not directly impacted by the Marshall Streetscape Improvement Project, we wish to express our full support. The Marshall Business and Residents Association, MBRA, seem to have an opposition to this project. They also appear to represent all of Marshall Main Street businesses in opposition to the project. While I do have some concerns about the potential impacts that we will face as a result of the upcoming construction project, we do not share the perspective that the project will harm Marshall businesses or residents. We trust in our community's ability to persevere and thrive during construction. We believe that the project will ultimately help all of our businesses grow and will help Marshall improve as a whole. We are hoping at some point the Streetscape Improvement Project will move to West Main Street as well. I kindly ask that my comments be added to the record. Thank you for your consideration. Sincerely, Dr. Michael Poss and Jean Poss. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is June Martin, and I live in Marshall. I'm in the lighting district. First of all, I think the project is way too expensive. And the second thing is I wanted to know who will actually benefit from this project. If you can or will let me know, I'd be very interested to know that. So I object to this project. Thank you very much.
My name's Maurice Casey. I live in the Marshall District. I have a business in Fauquier County. I'm a veterinarian. And I just had a couple comments. First off, I guess my math is not very good because the gentleman back there stated with Mr. Lawrence's thing that they are only going to widen the sidewalks from 4 feet to 5 feet. Well, that's 12 inches, right? And he says it's only going to narrow the streets 11 inches. Well, if you put it on both sides, that's 24 inches. So my question is, where's this magical, we're only going to lose 11, or are we going to cut the front of the businesses off and move the sidewalks back? That's one question. Second question is, I moved to Marshall in 1994. My father and mother moved to McLean in 1954. And I have watched the progression of the locusts of Virginia go from McLean, Clifton, Centerville, Manassas, Haymarket, Gainesville. I don't see any of that looks better than what Marshall is already. And for $6.2 million, to add 1 foot to sidewalks that are already meet the standards of the American Disability Act, and yes, you're going to extend it into the gateway, but that's additional money, additional taxes to the community. And I just don't think it adds up mathematically. Thank you very much.
Sir?
My name is William Hines. I'm a resident of the Village of Marshall and the district, lighting district, and on the heavens of earth. This sidewalk issue seems like it's already is existing at 5 feet, so it's ADA compliant anyway. So we welcome the board to use a tape measure, rule, or whatever you have to confirm this. But the issue is we ought to just turn loose VDOT to make the corrections, repairs, fix the cross area where the light is, so we get rid of the 2 bumps that causes a lot of headaches and heartaches for trailers and what have you that cross both of them. Horse trailers have, I understand, is a big problem because the horses could lose their stance, I understand. And this project is money-wise, what would you gain out of it? We already have a downtown that is serviceable. And by tearing everything up, you have to have across the street cutting, nobody mentions about it, to get to the other side of the street, south side of the street, to put the power in. So I would say cancel this project. Thank you, board.
Good evening. I guess you know why I'm here tonight, but on my shirt. My name is Harold Cross. I live in Marshall, the village, the 8614 Colston Court. And we ask you to please cancel the project. I drive a tractor trailer, and people think it's not going to do anything with the traffic down there. It will. You can't get 2 trucks, big trucks down through there at one time. I've seen buses down through there. Someone's got to stop. People come across the crosswalk going for the restaurants and everything, they got to stop in the middle of the road. You have to have a lay-down area for your construction site. That means some of these sidewalks going to be blocked with brick, stone, gravel, whatever they got to put on the road. You know, you're going to lose a lot of area. You're not going to have no room for trucks or anything, no cars going down through there. So whoever's saying it's not going to affect the traffic, it will. We just got to stop the project. Thank you.
First of all, I'm not a public speaker. I speak a lot, talk a lot, but this is nervous. Anyway, my name is Lori Carter, and I have a business in the middle of Marshall, this project thing, 8352 West Main Street. Not only would I like to say, let's end this project for just concerns of safety reasons for the public, my clients not being able to get to my business on time, which is very important. I'm worried about school buses with children in it waiting, and it gets hot. There's no air conditioning in the school buses. This is agricultural area. There's horses in vans, there's cattle. There's lots of concerns. The narrowing of the roads is going to create terrible issues when people open the doors on their car. You know, it's just a lot of things that I think everybody needs to consider, you know, doing anything like this. It's just seems like it's not a very good idea. So I am opposed to it. So thank you.
Good evening. I'm Debbie Cloud. I live in Marshall District. Tonight I am going to read a letter from Field and Maine from Neil Wavera. It says, to the Fauquier County Board of Supervisors. For the record, my name is Neil Wavera. I am as a property owner and a business operator located at 8369 West Main Street in Marshall, Virginia. I am directly impacted by the Marshall Streetscape project, and I wish to express my full support for the project. The Marshall Business and Residents Association, of which I used to be a member, has mounted a vocal opposition to the project. At points, some of these statements seem to suggest that they speak on behalf of all of Marshall Main Street. This is not so in my case. While I share a number of concerns about the potential impacts that we will have to face as a result of the upcoming project, I do share the perspective that the project will not harm Marshall. I have more faith in the community and the ability to persevere and to ultimately thrive through this project. This resolve is bolstered by the knowledge that the Marshall residents and Main Street property business owners are already working together to address these concerns. My building dates back to the 1790s and was a tavern in the 1800s. During this time, Marshall was a vibrant town on Main Street and a gathering place, one that saw local residents coming and going, salespeople, travelers, and passerbys. I am proud to be part of the Marshall evolution and excited to recognize Marshall as a project as we work together. I kindly ask my comments to be added to the record, and I thank you for your considerations. As a resident of Marshall and working with a lot of the different businesses and owners, there's a lot of people that support this project. They've been involved in this for a very long time. They do want the power lines buried and this project to go forward. Thank you. Oh, please contact everybody about the budget.
Hello, my name is Bill Corish. I'm a resident of Linden in Fauquier, but my business is on Main Street in Marshall. I rent, I'm an engineer, and I rent an office on Main Street. And I want to say I'm new to my office, so this issue is new to me. It's not something I've been aware of for a long time, and then all of a sudden I'm, talking about it. So I'm just giving you my impressions. I like Marshall the way it is. I understand the idea about improving things, and maybe if that's the way ultimately folks want to go and turn Marshall into Middleburg Light, but I like it the way it is. I'm sure it would be great as Middleburg Light too, but I think you're going to have businesses that are going to disappear, that aren't going to be able to afford it. I've heard I haven't had time to really get into the details, but I've looked at the numbers. They seem ridiculously expensive for the return that I would think the town is going to get, unless, like you say, a whole bunch of people move out and a whole bunch of other people move in. Then maybe it's worthwhile. But I walk, I'm my favorite business is Joe's Pizza. I walk the street often to get lunch, and you know, I just enjoy it. I like it the way it is. So I'm just giving you my perspective of things, and I don't want to see Joe have to raise his price of his pizza in order to help cover the taxes.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Barbara Hoylman. I live in Marshall. I've lived there 45 years. I have a business on Main Street. I've had the business now for 8 years. I'm here to say that I oppose the project. It's costly. It's not going to improve the things that need to be improved. There are some things that need to be done to Marshall to make it look pretty, but there are things we can do that won't cost the kind of money that you're talking about, or the project is talking about. It's my understanding that there's 816 businesses or residents that are affected by this. I would like to see some accounting for who is in favor and who is not. I want some kind of a vote, something that's on record that people can honestly say, yes, I am, or no, I'm not. And until that happens, we're not going to really know how many are truly in favor or who are against it. Some people can't get up here and stand and say something, or come to a meeting and say something. But when you talk to them one-on-one, as I have recently, they don't want this project. Please cancel it. Whatever the language is, don't go forward with it. Thank you.
George Thompson, and I'm a resident of a good many years of Marshall, and a property owner in the East End. And with no reference to my chronology, as the speaker, 4 or 5 speakers ago mentioned the ease of driving cattle down through Marshall, I got to say that I remember very distinctly driving cattle through Marshall. And then when I think about that, I think, my goodness, I believe we waited long enough to get some sort of improvements. Well, I didn't necessarily agree with the improvements we made when we tore down and removed the parking and tore down the trees, but in retrospect, it was a constructive move in the long run. So I think that's very much the case now. We as young citizens of Marshall have waited a good many years for improvements, and so this is not a perfect program, as I will admit, and we've seen that sort of criticism going back and forth, but I believe it is very much a case of the right time to move ahead, and maybe later on we can polish some of the questions we've got now. But as a resident of a good many years, I would definitely like to recommend approval. I thank you kindly.
I'm Ron Holman, and I have a business in Marshall at 8440, and I am opposed for this project to go forward. And to my understanding, that the bids that came in did not include the rock. And I have worked construction all of my life, and I know what it is to go in and try to remove rock and what it's going to cost. So if you go for this project, you're giving some contractor an open check to go in and remove that rock. It's not going to be just 6.3 million. You're looking at probably another 5 or 6 million to remove that rock for one block, dropping power lines. You cannot still enter Marshall without seeing power lines. 55 east, 55 west. You got to come in, you're going to see power lines. So what good is it going to do one block and maybe cost 12 million instead of 6.3? Thank you.
Man, I gotta follow him. Go on.
All right, my name's Philip Roper. I live in Marshall. I'm 4165 Frost Street. I'm in the Special Lighting District. I've been living in Marshall for about 15 years now. I actually live in the same house that my in-laws had. I won't say how long she's been there because I want to make sure she can ride the car with me on the way back. I have a lot of questions about the project. I am currently opposed to it. Doesn't mean I couldn't be swayed, but right now, with all the changes that have been made, I would love to see something where we could scrap it and start over fresh so that everybody knows exactly what's going on. I have so many questions, and I don't know who to ask. I hear different views of what's going on. I don't have any answers. And one thing that does concern me, or that I'd like to bring up, is I haven't heard anything about after it's done, the beautifying Main Street. I'm curious who's going to be in charge of keeping it beautified. I think VDOT is in charge of the streets right now. Will they still be? Because if they are, I don't know who is, but it's not great now. And I always hear these great ideas, and now I wonder, okay, everybody's good at coming up with ideas, but they're never good at maintaining it. So I'm curious, who's going to trim the trees? Who's going to keep the sidewalks clean? Who's going to sweep the streets? Who's going to pave it? That's what I'm worried about, because we could get it done, and then 2-3 years from now, it's going to look junky again. So that's my question. But thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Joe Sarsour. My family owns Glasgow Grocery and Nick's Market on Main Street. We've been there for 27 years, and I just never seen the town this much divided. It's really sad. I oppose to this project, very much so. I oppose to the historical overlay. We've already seen what happened to that. I mean, the theater in the middle of town, we can't do anything with that one, because if it gets torn down, it has to be built back the same way it is. It's just a really sad situation in Marshall right now. Where we are on Main Street, the east side, we're going to be paying for the upgrade of the one block of Marshall, and I just don't think it's fair. I also own properties that are at every entrance coming into Marshall, and I definitely oppose to this. To be really honest with you, no one would benefit as much as I would if this project was to go forward, because all the construction in the middle of town would drive everyone down to my side of town, but I'm not going to sell out the town for this. It's really sad. I've been able to acquire so many properties in this last year from people that just want to get out of Marshall and not be, because they don't know what the tax is going to be. I'm not asking you, I'm begging you to please get rid of this project. Thank you.
I'm Kathy Boone. I live in Marshall. I also work Main Street, Marshall. I have several concerns. I'll make it short. The narrowing of the street concerns me for a lot of reasons. Safety for the farm equipment. Everybody going through fire trucks, EMT, they're concerned for their safety and the people crossing the street. Also concerned for the tax increase. There are people who are struggling now, budget to budget. A tax increase would be hardship on them. I also feel that I have concerns like the other gentleman. Once this project's done, who's taking care of it? Who's maintaining it? Now it's VDOT's responsibility. Whose responsibility will it be then? And will that be all of Fauquier County's taxes going up to maintain the sidewalks? Cancel the project. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Brett Stoker. I live on Robert Circle in Marshall. We've lived in Marshall for 16 years, raised 5 kids there, and we've never once had a problem walking on the sidewalks in downtown Marshall. None of my relatives who have come to visit have ever looked up and said, dang, it's a shame about those power lines or those phone lines. Nobody notices them. I don't notice them. And I don't think it's fair that the residents of Marshall need to pay to make such fancy upgrades, especially at a high cost. We're not going to see a great benefit out of them. I understand people who frequent some of the businesses say, oh, it's okay in Marshall, but it'd be nice if it just looked better. We don't need to pay. If they want it to look better, then there needs to be a better funding source than the residents. We can't even afford to frequent some of the businesses that draw the people who make those comments. We can't afford to eat there, so I don't see why we should have to pay to make it all look all nice how they want it to look. And as far as the street lights and we have to walk a quarter mile just to get to the nearest street light in our neighborhood. And if we want to walk down into the main street, that's over a half-mile walk, and most of there's no sidewalk. We're tromping down Winchester Road, either getting chased by dogs or trying not to get run over on the road. And we would rather see sidewalks along there or down at the other end between the townhouses and Food Lion. We're tired of nearly running over people in the dark there who wear black and walk into the road at night where you can't see them. That's where improvements need to be made, not on the main street. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Deanna Holmes. I live on Main Street, Marshall. I live in the Tax and Lighting District, and I want this project stopped. Having been a Fauquier County teacher for 8 years, the lady that was here earlier speaking about services for children, there are so many other issues and needs that we have in this county that taxpayer money would go to to benefit more than throwing away $6.3 million plus to a project that does not solve very many issues. There's so many other needs, and particularly in Marshall, the water. I would be here for hours explaining, as a 25-year resident plus before that, the problems that we face in Marshall. Widening and making it pretty, we can do that at a far less cost. Stop the project now, please.
Hi, my name is Jan Snodgrass. I actually live off of Crest Hill Road, but I drive through Marshall all the time. I have horses. I'm driving horse trailers through there, and I have seen plenty of times where people fling open their car doors as they're parked along the road, and you got to slam on the brakes. I see logging trucks coming through town a lot. Now, what's going to happen when a logging truck comes and a fire truck comes, or a school bus or something? There's not enough room. It's so close now. I don't know why anybody would narrow that road. Now, if you're going to do this construction, where are you going to route everybody? Down Salem Avenue? Now you're going to have logging trucks and fire trucks and buses and horse trailers going there. I don't see what benefit this is. And I've lived in a bunch of different places during my life, and I've seen places try to make something really fancy, do all this construction, make it really pretty, but it's not supported by the people that live there. You know, I lived in Toledo, Ohio. It's a blue-collar town downtown, and they tried to make it this big, special, really nice, fancy area. It just went broke. It went bust, and it all went away. And I don't know, Middleburg might be able to handle it, but I don't know that making it pretty is going to solve problems in Marshall. I think you make it nice, you make it workable. All right? Thanks.
Any other speakers?
Hello, my name is Carter Stoker. I'm Brett Stoker's son. I live in the Marshall District, and I live in the Special Lighting District. I've lived here 16 years of my 18 years of living. I don't have any memory before I moved into this house, so I might as well have been born here. Like my dad said, we have to walk a half mile to get to the nearest street lamp, another half mile to get to the nearest sidewalk. I'm against the building or the modifications to Main Street because I don't think this county is capable of doing it competently. The sidewalk that my dad referenced going from Main Street to Food Lion is a simple, at the most, 100 yards of black concrete with no guard railing on the side. Right next to it is about like a 2.5-foot ditch that someone could just fall into and drown in the night. That sidewalk took about 4 years to go from grass to dirt to gravel that was cordoned off for further construction, and now it's finally achieved its final state of just a narrow strip of tarmac. I have doubts about the capabilities to pull this off competently. And also, in regards to narrowing the street in order to slow down traffic, that is inherently insidious. It creates a hazard and a danger to drivers that necessitates a change in behavior. It's not encouraging people to follow a new law. It is creating physical, dangerous consequences to people who don't follow a law. It's like reducing obesity by poisoning junk food. It's, if I'm going down the street in an F-150 and somebody else is coming down the street in a new Chevy Silverado, do I veer off the road into the Bentley to my right, or does he veer off the road into the new Rolls Royce off to his right? None of which are owned by Marshall residents, I might add. The people who park on there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, I didn't get to use just one more minute. I was just thinking, as I was coming here, every time I come, I sit next to the sheriff. I don't know why. He always sits to the left. I always want to go to the right, but I always sit next to him. It gets me so nervous, I forget my thoughts. But as I was supposed to leave work early, go home, change, so I can come to town proper. And I was just thinking, everyone that's in this room, we're all the working people of the town. We're all the people that are here right now. Everyone else that sent the letter in, they're not working. They're not grinding every day like we are, because if they were, they could come tonight. So we're the real deal. We're the ones that don't want it. Thank you.
Any other speakers? With that, I'll close citizens' time, and I give the room a few minutes to clear out. If everybody wants to leave, feel free to do so.
Yeah, absolutely. Have a great day. No, I'm sorry, man. That's going to cost you 25 cents a minute.
I'd like to say one. Okay, sure. I'd just like to say this one thing. Thank you for listening to all of the people. I really appreciate it. It was very kind of all of you. Thank you very much.
Okay, so I'm looking for a motion for the consent agenda.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would move adoption of the consent agenda as amended.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Now we go to item 7, a resolution to approve revised payment levels for the purchase of development rights for the PDR program. This was sponsored by Mr. Supervisor Gerhart, and since he's not going to be here, he's unable to be here this evening.